Hello, welcome to Sterlo's Wrap.
Straight rhythm! Bang, take advantage of it.
Stand and applause!
It's a stupid question.
It's
I
not!
have far greater expectations of you than that.
Oh, yes! He's gone all the way!
Now, he's popular, he's a great leader, he's the mentality of this football team.
Oh, and another one from Cleary!
Well, it doesn't get much better, does it?
Absolutely outstanding, and the finish is just as good!
It's rugby league, isn't it?
Hello there, welcome to Sterlo's Wrap of Week 1 of the Finals. Peter Sterling, what a weekend.
Great time, wasn't it? Great viewing. Surprised, I suppose, was that a lot of people were predicting if there was to be an upset, it might have been in the Manly-Melbourne game. Well, the only emphatic scoreline out of the weekend was actually that one. Melbourne, just fantastic. But, yeah, so much to watch. The finishes of a couple of games, obviously the Gold Coast Titans, they'll be looking back on that and just shaking their head that they didn't go through to the second week. Controversy to some degree, maybe at the end of the Parramatta game as well, and just a really solid performance from South Sydney to prevail. So obviously a week off now for Melbourne and South, and we've got a couple of beauties next week for the 4 teams remaining outside of those 2.
Yeah, Battle of the West, Week 2 of the Finals, Parramatta versus Penrith. That'll be the Saturday game, and Parramatta got there in a willing and brutal game
It was.
at Brown Park. Rockhampton 28-20, the full-time score, as Pete points out. Bit of controversy at the end there. I think it's probably safe to say that the refs might have got that one wrong. Clint Gutherson knocking on a penalty try in the end, but Parramatta pretty good at time. Mitchell Moses guided them really well around the park in the clutch moments.
Yeah, look, I think they deserved to win. Even going into that final decision that went their way for a penalty try, they led by 2 at that stage.
Yeah.
You know, only 3.5 minutes to go and the ball was down that end of the field. So I think Parramatta would say, well, we'd defend our way to victory if it didn't go our way anyway. But I thought probably failed to take advantage of the physical nature with which they played. A couple of decisions they'd like to change. Charge down, where probably would have been just better to let the ball be kicked and still get the ball in good field position. Shoulder charge from Junior Paulo gave away a penalty that was scored on the back of that. So, yeah, there's some areas to clean up there, but the most important
thing... judiciary concerns potentially as well.
Well, there are. I'll talk about that later in the week, obviously, when we know what the charges are, but obviously nervous if you're a Parramatta fan in regards to Junior Paulo, Wonga Blake and Marata Niokore. The 5 minutes before half-time was absolutely crucial. This is where Mitchell Moses really grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck and some inspired play down there. Great little pass, flick pass from Penasini for Blake Ferguson to score a try. And Mitchell Moses' individual effort was wonderful. Just seeing that there were a couple of forwards there who were staggered. He took them on. I was surprised that he had the speed to get around Kalen Ponga the way that he did, although Kalen's probably coming from the standing start. But yeah, some inspired moments there. But I think what stood out in this game was the physical nature. A couple of times Parramatta, sets of 6, with Newcastle coming out of their own end, they just aimed up. Oh. And to Newcastle's credit, they kept coming back for more. And when the game looked like it was out of reach by 12 points in that second half, Newcastle found something and they pushed it right to the final moments, and they'll be disappointed it finished the way that they did, but they gave it their all. Yeah,
indeed. You're right about that defence. Just having a look at some of those defensive efforts here, it was stinging stuff from Parramatta, and it was a tactic too, wasn't it? Because it was long kicks and then charge off the line and try and pin Newcastle down against their own line, and the Knights were struggling to get out of yardage pretty much the whole game. Well,
it was important that Parramatta led at half-time because they turned with the wind. So it was easier for them to kick the ball out in that second 40. But both halves, I thought Parramatta really aimed up in that 10 or 15 metre area coming out for Newcastle from their own line, and they were made to earn every metre. And I think in the end Parramatta deserved to win. And I won't say they limp into next week, but physically it'll take a little while to get over that one.
South Sydney 16, Penrith Panthers 10. The upset of the weekend, Pete. What a good game of footy. I think Penrith will be disappointed maybe with some of their execution at times, but full credit to South Sydney who lost to Penrith by 40 only a couple of weeks back. To turn it around in that short space of time is yet another indication of the genius of Wayne Bennett.
It was great coming in, wasn't it? The banter between the coaches. And I've got to say, I thought that maybe Penrith to a degree played as well as they were allowed to from South Sydney. Can't remember the last time Penrith were restricted to one try in a game with their great attack. So it was hats off to South Sydney. Came up with a wonderful performance. Look, the first thing when they ran out, we looked to see who's going back to fullback. There'd been conjecture during the week, as to whether Blake Taaffe had been named there. Was he going to take his spot? Well, he did, and I thought the young man did a fantastic job. He dropped one early, and maybe it's one of those situations, Matt, where just get it out of the way early. Yeah. Just make the mistake early, and it was probably going to come at some stage. Let's get it done and dusted. But from that moment on, he was steadfast under the high ball. They put plenty of pressure on him, all different types of kick from Nathan Cleary. But he came up on every occasion, and there's one we'll see a little bit later, which was certainly the catch of the match. This is it here. It's a direct kick for Stephen Crichton, who is outstanding in the air. And Blake Taaffe got the better body position, got his arms in the right place, and diffused a very, very dangerous situation. 16-10 with 12 to go. That was his best effort in what was, I thought, a really wholehearted performance from the whole team. I love the effort from the South Sydney forwards, and that's the starting players and those coming off the bench. Just little incidents here. We've got 10 to go. Kick goes through from Adam Reynolds. Look who makes a tackle. Big Mark Nichols is down there to chase up. He's been rewarded with a starting spot. Cody Walker goes through, tries to get a kick through. On his right shoulder is Totola pushing up. We've got here Mark Nichols again taking advantage of his height. The ball doesn't bounce kindly for Charlie Staines. Nichols cleans up. This is all late in the game. This is where you need effort plays. And again, kick out. Gets away down that left-hand side. Ball comes back on the inside.
Oh, really, Army.
And Cameron Murray comes up with the play.
What's he done with the pass, Pete?
Well, he doesn't throw a lot of them. But just wonderful. It's Jaden Sewer on Williama kick out. How often do you see him get hit like that? Sewer again taking the ball forward strongly. Everybody contributed. The bench was tremendous. Tom Burgess kept the legs pumping. Jacob Host, I think, playing in his first final series, coming across from the Dragons, was strong as he's been all season. And this man here probably showed more aggression than anybody else in Jai Arrow. So wonderful performance. And I said on the footy show on the weekend, it just exemplified that big matches are won by your big men. And I thought South Sydney, I wouldn't say they overpowered the Penrith side, but I thought that they got the ascendancy on them, and Penrith just didn't find it within themselves to come up with more than one try, and that goes down to the effort from South Sydney.
Pete, the last team to lose in the opening week of the finals and go on to win the comp was the Cowboys in 2015. The Panthers, they were not convincing leading into the finals, were they? That they've bumbled their attack, but they've had areas of their game which have been not at the standard that it was at the start of the year, particularly those skill areas. They've lost a lot of football. It seemed like it hasn't clicked for them. The question I'll ask you is it an advantage now for Penrith going forward that they get an extra game before they potentially have a crack at Melbourne to make the grand final?
No, I think you always want the week off. I think history probably supports that to some degree. But in regards to Penrith, I thought they had a sense of timing coming into the finals, because that sort of lack of fluency I think you might be referring to, I think was on the back of the fact they had so many players coming out of an Origin series. They had a lot of players injured that period of time. So it was only really in the last round, maybe round and a half, where they actually had the side that they were going to take into finals football on deck. So look, it may well prove, you might be right. It might prove, that they get that other game under their belt if they win next week against Parramatta. That might help them to get that combination which we associate with this Penrith team, both in attack and defence. But I'm taking nothing away from South Sydney. I thought they really earned the week off with a great finals performance under the tutelage of a wonderful finals coach in Wayne Bennett, who I think had a victory over Ivan Cleary off the field as well.
Interesting, all of that. Qualifying final Friday, Melbourne 40, Manly 12. They peak at finals time. The Melbourne Storm had done it so many seasons leading into this year, and Craig Bellamy be a master in that area as well, similar to Wayne Bennett. They found their mojo against Manly, who I thought were pretty disappointing, to be honest. Yeah, well, they were their own worst enemy, especially in that first 20 minutes. Too many penalties, too many drop balls, too many six against. Against Melbourne, we know, the first 20, 25 minutes, it's crucial. You've got to get away to a good start against them, because you know that Melbourne are so seasoned and they know this time of the year and the type of football that needs to be played. And I just want to show you the first, I think it's about 8 times
that Manly get the football in this game. And have a look at the common denominators here. Ball caught around the 10-metre area. Tom Trbojevic, his first couple of touches, he's got a purple wall in front of him. They offered him nothing. This is not allowing the opposition to get anything out of the opening 20 minutes. All they're doing is coming off their own end, trying to get into the game. And Melbourne were fantastic in that regard. And unfortunately for the Manly side, in regards to the errors that they came up with in that first 20 minutes, there were points on the back of them. Manly made the errors but didn't defend them. So the scoreboard got away on them fairly quickly, and Melbourne are the best front runners in this competition, have been for a long, long time. And I don't think anybody expected the scoreline to get out as high as it did, but it was just an emphasis on how professional and controlled the Storm were. I said again, the control came in their completion rates, with the way that they were able to regulate the speed of the ball, the ruck area, and also where they handed the football over to Manly. They got all of those exactly right, and if you do that in finals football, it's a big step towards being in front at the end of 80 minutes.
What's Des talking about this week in the lead up to the Roosters?
Oh, discipline. Absolutely discipline. They've just, they've got to get it right now. They're back in a situation where obviously it's sudden death, but they can learn from Melbourne here, because Melbourne not only started the game well. I just want to show you how they finished the game. Also, the scoreline is 32-12 with under 8 minutes to go. Kristen Welsh coming across in cover defence at front row, who's worked his backside off. Then Tom Trbojevic comes in with that kind of run. In the last few weeks, he scores a try. They force an error. Cameron Munster drills a 40-20, almost rivals the one we saw earlier in the season a couple of weeks back from Adam Reynolds. An absolute beauty with 5 to go. And then they just back it up with Asaf Solomana going in, getting the right arm free, and Justin Olam scores the try. There was a 2-point field goal late in the game. So they start the way that you have to start finals, and then they put the icing on right at the end, this Melbourne Storm side. So they have always been clearly the side to beat. If I'm Manly, I'm looking at a few areas of the game. Just one thing I picked out, they had some concerns, Matt, I thought, on their right-hand defensive side. Now, there's been some criticism about Cherry Evans maybe going up too quick. Olakau'atu back on the inside, the big man, is on his heels going sideways. There's a try there. Have a look at him again. Back on the inside, back on his heels. Opens up the hole for Pappenhausen to come through. It's last tackle, but you've got to push up. You've got to find the energy. Even late in the game here, they don't score from, but look where he is. Back on his heels again. And that encourages the opposition to run. Those three were on the last tackle. The one thing I think you do on the last tackle, you get up and you basically force the opposition to kick the ball to you. You don't encourage them to run. And I think I'm a huge Olakau'atu fan, but there's a bit of fatigue there, and Manly paid the price for it. He's got to make the effort there, because finals football, when it comes to that, if you are a little bit lazy, you get found out. And I thought he was a couple of times there, but he's a quality player. He's a young man coming through. He'll be better for the run, as will all his teammates.
Saturday night, Roosters 25, Titans 24. Roosters versus Titans round 14. Roosters by a point. Roosters v Titans on Saturday. Roosters by a single point. Doesn't sound like much of a margin, but in these close games with finals experience, you sort of always feel that the Roosters are well positioned to win those close games against the Titans outfit, which has been so exciting to watch this year. But they just lack a little bit of maturity at this stage.
They lack to pass. That's what they lacked. They were down 18-6, and at 18-6, I'm on board with you there. That you think, okay, they're going to be too professional here, the Roosters, we know the trials and tribulations they've gone through, but they came up with a lot of un-Roosters-like errors. Like, who sees Matty Cavallo come out, lose the ball, and Jared Wallace dives over to score? You just don't see that. Isaac Liu comes up with a simple knock-on close to the line as well. So they did kind of invite the Gold Coast back into the game, and you've got to feel for Patrick Herbert and the Gold Coast Titans, because this was just one of those unfortunate moments that are going to go down in rugby league history, where if Patrick finds David Fifita, which probably still wasn't the best option, he scores. If he finds Corey Thompson, which was the best option, he definitely scores. So it was a sad way. But they can do that. The Gold Coast Titans can go the length. You know, not many teams would have been able to put themselves in a position to do that. So it was the one that got away, but somehow the Roosters prevailed. I thought Victor Radley kind of personified the performance from them. The hit on Sam Lasoni, I had great fears for him. Like, when he comes in, he's hitting an immovable object. He doesn't stay down. And the thing that concerned me, he gets up and he tries to shake it off. You're thinking, okay, here it's a stinger and that he'll be okay. But then he goes back close to the dead ball line and goes down on his haunches again. And you thought, well, he might be in real trouble. And then he's got the audacity 5 minutes later to burst through like that, hold off Sam Lasoni, who did the damage, and set up the try. He was fantastic. James Tedesco was magnificent once again.
It's one of the great individual seasons, this from Tedesco. I know we're talking about Trebojevic and Cleary, and rightly so, but he has really, he's captain of the Roosters now. He's carried this side. Carried them.
Yeah, look, that's taking something away from his teammates who've all contributed. But yes, he's been the difference when they've needed a difference.
When I say carry them, it's that sort of come with me mentality, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I'll show you the vision that he plays with as well. Have a look here. They make a break down the right-hand side. Now he sees that Sami and the centre, Kelly, are around the play the ball area. He goes straight back there, and Josh Morris scores the try to extend the lead out to 24-18. That's good play for a halfback. He's a fullback who's not, they used to just sweep around and bring the ball back. Now they're up playing this. That takes an understanding of the game and quick fire where the opposition are to know that they had to be weak because the winger and centre were involved in the play. He went straight back there and they benefited. So it was tremendous. Probably the ultimate compliment goes to Sam Walker in regards to Trent Robinson has called him the finisher. Now, at 18 years of age, with a couple of first grade games under your belt, for your coach to label you that it's a big compliment. He comes in for the last 6 or 7 minutes. He nails it. The 1 point in that 35-34 win a number of weeks back, he was the difference. He's the difference here again. But I want you also, that's not his biggest play, which might sound a little bit strange because in the end, it was a 1 point margin. Have a look here. He misses the tackle. He stumbles. But now, if he falls over there, the Gold Coast win because he's not in shot to make that tackle on Philip Sami. So the field goal was huge. But then to save the game, if he hits the deck and he doesn't make that tackle on Sami, they get beaten anyway. So for a young man who's got the world at his feet, for the coach to, in such a confident manner, label him that, it augurs very, very well for his future and how he'll react in pressure situations.
Another good pick up from you, Pete. They've come a long way, though, the Titans, haven't they?
Yes.
They've got some representative players now. Foda Waker's come a long way. He's an out-and-out Origin player. Tino, I think, was their player of the year.
Yes, he was.
Does some brilliant things, does some strange things and makes some mistakes at times. But when they get a bit of maturity in that side, there's enough there to say that they're going to be a finals contender for a number of years to come.
Well, you add Isaac Liu into that team next year,
and
that gives it a real good shape. I'm glad you mentioned Mo Foda Waker. I think in 5 years' time, he'll be the best front rower in the game.
Wow.
Now, Payne Haas, is probably acknowledged as the best young forward coming through. Mo Foda Waker already has a pass and footwork in his game, and he's only going to get better. He's already played Origin as well, and I thought that this effort against the Roosters, he took an elite step forward. Only young, still only a baby when it comes to being a front rower in the NRL.
As Fatty said, he had his freckle out here.
Yes, he did. But, well, it worked because he pushed through them as well and picked up an extra 5 or 10 metres. And Fatty, yes, he's very good.
I don't think I've heard it referred to as a freckle before.
Well, you haven't spent a lot of time around Paul Morton, have you? But no, he's a wonderful talent, and the Gold Coast. I think that they're still defensively they need to put work in it. When they can get the effectiveness of the top teams when they don't have the football, they've got the game with ball in hand. I love watching them play.
Yeah.
I love that they obviously, their coach Justin Holbrook obviously does a lot of video work on where he can pick apart opposition teams and maybe see a weakness. And they played. Jared Wallace has had a fantastic year passing the football. And well, he's only just come into the scene as well.
Brimson had moved to 5'8" next year.
May well, yeah.
Campbell at fullback is what they're saying. Tyrone Peach hasn't got a club. So someone's got to sign Tyrone Peach.
I think you get him at the right price, and I think he'll be snapped up there because he looked pretty good in the 5'8" role there in the closing weeks. So, without due respect, I mean, with all due respect to Mitch Rain and to Aaron Clark, I think maybe if they could bring in a Brandon Smith number 9 to add to that would have been ideal. They're not easy to find. The number 9s, Rain and Clark, do a great job. But I just probably think that's the area that they'd be looking to strengthen their roster in.
Storm Rabbitohs have a week off. What would you be doing? Playing golf? Backing winners?
I think you keep the same routine. Yeah. I don't back many winners, and I certainly don't back many winners on the golf course. The great thing there for both those clubs, both coaches know exactly what they need to do. I think you freshen them up, but it's not about having idle time. I think you still work hard, but you get freshened up. So they'll modify their training regime, probably get an extra day off here and there that they wouldn't normally get. But it will all be about. It will be as much about mental preparation as it will be physical now by this stage of the season. And what they'll be looking to do is improve on their last performance, which is what they'll need to do now that they're in a grand final qualifier and only 80 minutes away from a grand final appearance.
Well, speaking of improvement, Manly versus Roosters, Friday night. 2 games in Mackay as well, of course, and Penrith versus Parramatta. You'd expect the favourites to really improve on what they offered in week 1. Is that?
I expect all teams to improve. I think Parramatta will be better next week. Snuck home, but I think they can be much better. The Roosters won't go away. And Manly, I've got no doubt Des Hasler will spend a lot of time on how they can use the football better and be smarter with it. So I'm expecting 2 great matches next week. And who's favourite, Manly and Roosters? Who do you think will go in as favourites?
Manly.
You think Manly will? Okay. And I'm assuming Penrith will be strong favourites against
Parramatta. I imagine so.
Parramatta.
I mean, there's a lot hinging on the match review panel with this.
Yes, very much so.
Yep.
But, we go into this first weekend thinking 4 favourites might prevail. Well, they didn't all prevail, and all games outside of the Manly-Melbourne game were very, very close.
Well, it's been one of the great week 1s of a finals series we've seen. 30 years of finals footy here on 9, and you've been in the thick of it the whole time, Pete. That's been an absolute ripper this weekend. And, gee, I thought you were very, very good on Sunday with watching Parramatta beat Newcastle.
Thank you very much.
Really good.
Yeah, I try to keep my emotions in check, but delighted.
Sometimes it works.
Exactly. They can be hard work. As a Parramatta fan, they make you work for your support.
It's one thing you never are.
No.
Thank you. Look forward to calling with you over the weekend. We'll be back for Sterlo's Wrap next week.